All right. Hello, everyone. Hopefully, you're seeing us on Instagram as well. I'm Robin Golinski, and this is Dr. Dennis Becker. And it is Friday at 4 o'clock on the East Coast of the United States. And you may be seeing this live or hearing this as our podcast. Today, we are going to talk about, and I know you've heard this many times before, it's for your own good. And we're saying, or is it for your own good?
Right.
So we're going to talk about advice, feedback, rules, teaching, guidelines that have to do with groups, cults, cliques, teams. And that's what we're going to discuss today.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it exciting, folks? Remember, we're always talking about manipulation. I didn't hear the word manipulation in there, but all of those things relate to manipulation. And that's what we're all about, obviously. That's why we're here every week. That's why we did the book. That's why we're doing all these podcasts. We're helping you to not be manipulated. And if you are, how to control it, how to protect yourself, and how to prevent ever happening to you. So that's what we're talking about today. And Robin, this topic today, I mean, we probably all of us at one time or another say, it's for your own good. You probably all heard that. And sometimes it's in a nasty, this is for your own good. Sometimes it's for your own good. It can come in many different ways. But the fact that it's said, we've heard, all of us, we've heard it sometime or another, one way or another, from one person or another, or maybe frequently. But you and I are adding something to it. It's for your own good. Or is
We've
it?
also imposed it because we're both parents. But I do want to add to that, Dennis, and make that distinction. This is about adults. So children don't, the difference between adults and children is children never have a choice, but adults always have a choice. So we're talking about adults. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying that comment is for your own good. Sometimes, I mean, it obviously sounds good, and people say it, and I guess they mean good because they say it's
Could
for
even
your
feel
own
good,
good.
right?
It
Ooh,
might
somebody's
even,
taking care of me. Somebody's looking out
exactly
for
right.
me.
Yeah, I never thought about it that way, but gee, I guess you're right, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it? So
Mm-hmm.
we're going to question the or is it part. So we're talking about it and Robin mentioned a moment ago, whether it comes to you as a rule, as somebody teaching to you, it's maybe a guideline or somebody some suggestion or advice, whatever, however it comes to you, whenever that is said to you and it's preceded or followed with, it's for your own good. However it's
Well,
said.
they may not say that. It's implied often. But let's think
Yeah,
about that before we even get into it, Dennis.
yeah,
Your own good. Let's just look at that because
yeah.
by the way, you've never talked about the 6-step problem solving and the definition of terms, but that's the favorite step of the 6 steps, defining the terms for
Right.
your own good. Okay.
Yeah.
Your own good. What is that? That's
Well, it means
actually
someone.
that's
Well,
actually your responsibility.
well,
Your own
no, I don't think so. Well, it is in the end. Of course it is. Of course it
I
is.
just want
All right, go ahead. I'm sorry I didn't interrupt you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
to okay. Your it comes but so the premise that I'm putting forth is your own good is totally up to you as a human being, human species, with your own free will and your own agency as an adult. The good, whatever's the good for you, really is your own. It should be up to you. So it's when somebody else steps in and decides they know what's best for you, we're trying to help you discern whether that's indeed true or not. Because even the people that created you, your father and mother, may not have your own good in mind. So, anyway, I just wanted to put that forward. Go ahead and disagree with me. I don't mind.
Okay, so I'm not going to disagree, but I want to put a slightly different color on that. You're always so
Which is what
raw,
I love
right?
about you,
Yeah,
Dennis.
yeah, I know. This is
Exactly.
for those of you who know us well. You're seeing Robin because she's feisty. It's some of the techniques that we teach you sometimes being feisty. This is Robin. It's her personality. She's feisty. But I'm going to put a slightly different color on that because sometimes what is said to you under the guise of it's for your own good, really is meant well. intended well. And maybe it
Yeah,
really is for
sometimes.
your own good.
Okay,
It's
but
not
then
always, yeah,
the
go
road to
ahead.
hell is paved with good intentions. I just want to
Yes.
add that
Okay.
little
All right.
yes.
So, like anything else, it's what happens after that is said that begins to make the difference. And of course, before that is said, when you're talking about manipulator, they think that through, and that becomes a favorite thing for them to say because it's for your own good. And we really know that it wasn't from the beginning, it wasn't for your own, it was for their good. So the term is for your own good can be positive or negative, both in the way it's said and in the way it's received. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today.
Well, and not and I just want to reiterate that it's they may not say that. This isn't about that phrase or them saying that phrase. This is more about the mindset that could be behind the advice, the
Yeah,
feedback, the rules, the teachings, the guidelines, whatever it is.
yeah,
What
yeah.
is the
And some,
mindset? Is the mindset truly have your best interest? And let's face it, and Dennis, I'll propose another probably controversial idea. I don't think it's ever 100% for somebody's own good,
oh my goodness.
ever.
Oh my
Well,
goodness.
and when we're talking about adults with other adults, people are usually thinking of themselves and the benefit to them and then the other person. So, for example, it's a very, very rare human being who would suggest something for somebody's better good that might be harmful to the actual advice giver, if that makes sense.
No, wait,
I
say
think
that
that
again. Say
so
that
in other
again.
words, if I know in my heart, let's say in my own mind,
Yeah.
that it would be best for you to do something,
Mm-hmm.
wear something, say something, do something, that
Mm-hmm.
if you do it, it's going to be a detriment to me somehow.
Oh, I see.
I'm very unlikely to tell you, and I don't mean me and you, I mean human
I
nature.
understand. I
Human
understand.
nature.
Yeah.
So, is it anybody so altruistic that they're only thinking of the good of others? I don't even know if Mother Teresa was doing that, honestly. Call
Oh
me
no, wait.
cynical.
No,
I know you
no, no,
paint me
no.
cynical, but
Yeah. No, this is where I'm going to not only be cynical, I don't disagree with you. You are a coach, for goodness sakes, Robin. So when you
well,
coach people, yeah,
yes, you're right.
okay. So it's
You're right.
don't make such a
But
broad
I will
statement.
make the distinction in that environment. Somebody is paying, you're giving me their informed consent. They've
Yeah,
given me their objectives of what they want to accomplish.
yeah,
And they're paying me, and of course, I have no
yeah.
s I'm giving them exactly what they need, and
For
so
their
you're
good,
right.
because you're doing it
Well,
for
but
their own good.
here's the distinction, Dennis, this is so important, I'm so glad you said that. They've decided what their own good is. And
Okay.
my coaching falls under the framework of their free agency, free will,
Mhm.
autonomically. No, I don't think that's a word. They've made the choice and the decision of what they want.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They may
So,
not know how to get it, but they want,
right.
but they
But that's why they
trust
pay
you.
somebody who knows
That's right.
how to help them get it.
And you're doing it not for your good, but for their good. So that's what I'm arguing
Absolutely.
here.
But
That
they're paying
it's for
me.
their
So
good.
it's
Eh?
actually for my good. Now,
No,
right?
no, no. You're stretching the point. I think. No,
No, I'm earning a
have you
living
ever
by
given good advice to someone that didn't pay you, and you did it for their sake? Have you ever
yeah.
done that? Yes, of
Yes.
course you have.
But
We've
it's
all done
I'm
that.
saying but remember, my distinction is if it was a detriment to me. So, like, for example, I don't know, I'll come up with a stupid example. Let's say I'm walking by a bus stop and I see somebody who's having trouble closing their umbrella because they don't know to push the little button in and pull the umbrella shut. So I
Mhm.
stop and I show them how to do the button. Well, there's no my point is that doesn't count because that doesn't affect me in any way. Well, it benefits me in that I get a little rush of, oh, I did something good. I did my good deed for the
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
But let's say that somehow me telling them to showing them how to close their umbrella was going to be detrimental to me. I don't think I would do it, and I don't mean me. I mean
Well,
humans,
no, no.
humans.
Okay, I agree. I agree. Yeah, if it's going to be detrimental to you, probably you're not going to do it. No, of course, I agree with that.
Okay, so
But
what I'm
there are
trying to
times.
do is get into the weeds of how we can help people analyze and discern, what if this is for their own good, whatever it is.
Okay. All right. It may not be easy to do what you just described about discerning whether or not it's for your own good or not. You may not know that because you don't know this person just walks up to you at this bus stop and says, you don't really know if it's for they're getting anything out of it or not.
You
You
don't
know, it
know.
helps you. You know, it helps you perhaps, and you do it. Okay, I thank you. Bye. Okay,
Well,
so it
you're
was a
going to
nice.
look at them and you're going to make that decision whether I
Yeah.
trust you, I
Yeah.
believe you,
Okay.
or I
Aha.
don't.
There's the key word. Do I trust that this person is saying something to me that I believe is going to be good for me? So the word trust was put into this conversation just now. Do I trust that person? So we take it from the bus stop where maybe I do or maybe I don't. That's arguable what the person looks like and is it raining. It's arguable in a different ways there. Let's take it out of the bus stop into something more pragmatic, something more practical like work, for example. You
Yeah.
know, Judy, it's for your own good that I say now. Here it comes. I'm at work, and I say to Judy, Judy, I'm just telling you this for your own good. Now, does Judy just accept it because, well, it's a good idea, or can and should Judy be suspicious about? Well, he's only saying it to me because it benefits him in this way. Now, the judgment that you, as the receiver, have to make is, do I trust that this person is honest with me? And how do I know that? How do you know that, Robin?
Well, I actually want to go back to another episode we did where we talked about that spectrum of where, and remember, one is where you're
Trust,
suspicious of everything and everyone, and the
paranoia.
other extreme is trusting, benefit of the doubt, trust everyone and face value. And we're trying to, again, move people into the middle.
Right.
It's more
Hearted.
complicated, right? So
Right.
somebody who I could have trusted and been able to rely upon somebody's advice for 10 years, and all of
Mhm.
a sudden maybe it turns. So this is another thing. You can't, there's no set it and forget it in human relationships,
Yeah,
in human
that's it.
engagement.
We'd
You
like to think
always
there
have
are.
to be thinking,
You'd
thinking,
like,
thinking, thinking.
you'd like to think that they are, that there is that. I mean, we
You'd
talk
like
about
to, but things change,
adults and
circumstances
children.
change.
Okay, let's say
People
adults and
become
children.
envious, jealous, resentful over time of something, who
Yes.
everything was fine until it isn't.
Yeah. Okay. So we're not talking about kids, but let's go from childhood to youth to adulthood. There's a period of time when you go from, 5, 6, 7, 8 to 15, 16, 17, 18 to 28, 38, 40. Okay. Now, in that period of time, in the very beginning, you just trust because it's mom and dad and you don't know any better or whatever.
You're
So we're not talking about
completely,
that.
your survival is
We're
dependent
not
on
talking
you
about
don't.
that. We
But
agree.
that's where the trust comes from. You don't have a choice. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know anything. And these people, your survival, your everything is dependent on them as a child.
My turn.
So yes, I guess you could argue that's trust, but I would also say
No, my
it's
turn.
trust because you don't have a choice.
My turn.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. You said, yeah, and then you went on anyway. I'm
Yeah,
trying to
whoops.
point out, let me finish the point. I'm trying to point out that as a
I'm
child,
getting you back from before when you didn't let me finish my. Oh no, go ahead. Just kidding.
there she
All
goes.
right, I'm a
I
child and
told you
I'm
she's
growing.
feisty. I told you
I'm
feisty.
going through puberty. Okay,
All
take
right.
me back.
When you're young and you're a child, you trust because of the love. And we're not going into that about why a child trusts mom and dad. We're not going into that right now. Okay, but now you get to the age of reason, 7, 8, 9, 10, and you begin to wonder. Maybe you don't necessarily trust everything that mom and dad. And you get into teenage, and again, trust gets challenged. All of us are moms and dads know that we may not be trusted anymore.
Oh, in
Maybe
fact,
forever from that point on. All right.
that's a very important point.
Even though, even though, even though at age 28, mom and dad may mean it and may intend it for your own good. Now, even though from childhood they said all these things to you for your own good, and even at age 28, they think it's for your own good. What's the difference when you're at 28 and you're at 8? The difference is as you become an adult, 28, 38, whatever it is, when you get to that stage, you have not only a choice, which you didn't have when you were a child necessarily. Some kids do, and they're ornery, but when you're 28, you have a different set of choices because you have had a different level of experience over the preceding 10, 15 years or whatever that have taught you about trust. How can you trust? What can you trust? How do you tell? Facial expression, words, time of day, all sorts of things that you've used to determine I can trust what's being said to me by this person at this time. So when you get, not yet, when you get to be an adult and you hear in one way or another, it's for your own good. Now, how do you decide whether it is or it isn't? My sense is this, I'm going to stop after this. My sense is that you decide whether it's for your own good or not, when you hear it as an adult, is based on two things: previous experiences with that individual or that environment, whatever it is, that individual particularly, previous experience, and this is the part that a lot of people don't explore, your own internal mindset, subconscious mind, things that are planted inside of you for so many years prior to that, and you just don't investigate them, you just do it. All right. So those are reasons why, as you become an adult, you don't necessarily accept it's for your own good, nor should you. Okay, I'll stop. Your turn.
So I think it's an important point that as you're a child, you learn about trust from your parents. But and I'll speak, and again, we're talking about adults. We're focused on adults, but the behaviors, as you mentioned, they come from the way that you are raised. And that's a spectrum as well. I'll speak to mothers, not necessarily fathers. And one of the reasons why they've shown that kids who have a mother and a father who stayed together and are healthy parents, those kids are much, much further ahead in being prepared for life. I'm sorry, but that's what the research shows than a kid who had a single parent or didn't have a father as in
Yeah.
a male or a mother as in a female,
Yeah.
because there's a balance there, right? So this is
Yes.
what we're talking about, balance.
Right.
So the parents of a child have to, if they want to set their child up for success, they have to give that child the tools, give them the confidence so that they can, over time, as they approach adulthood, start to be able to have this discernment. Most people don't get let's face it, most of us don't get a balanced, healthy caretakers. It hasn't been since I just isn't very common. So what happens is that is also a spectrum. So, and with mothers, it could be something called smotherhood, where the mother is very protective. She teaches the child to be fearful all the time. Don't talk to strangers. Don't talk to strangers. And the child is,
Yeah.
like you said, Dennis, they develop a fear of speaking. They develop insecurities. They become infantilized so that they become, a learned helplessness as they become adults.
Yeah. And
And
it's
at
not
the
just
other end of that, the other extreme is the child that is pushed to do things before they are old enough or understand what's going on, and they're neglect, really. They're just like, go do it. And that was my end. Go do it. You're on your own. Oh, you can use a hot stove, even though you're 5, just be careful, that kind of parent. So, but
yeah.
those are extremes. In the middle is what we want, is the parents who can grow and adapt. And they have to, it's not easy, but there's nothing harder than parenthood. It's very, very difficult. This is why most of us fail at it at one stage or another. We may have gotten the toddler stage down pat, but then not so much with the teenage years, because it's hard to know as a parent when to allow them to learn. Well, it's hard to let them fail. It's hard to let them take risks, especially teenagers, because they can get into a lot of trouble. But if they don't, then they
They
don't
don't learn.
develop those tools. And then
Yeah.
what happens is they're watching a podcast like ours because they're having trouble in relationships, and they're trying to figure out, how do I know if I should trust what that person said to me?
Yeah.
How can
And
I know?
things that are said to us as adults, as I said, can be either said because it's good for your own good, or It's not good for you, but it's said anyway. So, and that, as it happens to you, particularly as a young adult, when you're in teenage years, let's start with childhood, but even in teenage years, and even as adults, when you get your first job and so forth, and you get your new boss or a teacher at school, for example, will say to you, "All right, stop talking, Mr. Becker. Never mind. That's enough." Okay. Maybe she's saying it for your own good because she's trying to help you understand what she's talking about on the board, whatever. And stop talking. But the feeling that you may get as that child is, okay, I put it away and I remember it, and it becomes part of the thing I have learned is to do not talk when other people are trying to teach me something.
Mhm.
That's okay. It sounds okay. But as you mature and as you get older, and people say things to you about not talking or not smiling or whatever it is, they may think it's for your own good. It may come to you from a place of, oh, when I get told that, I know I should. When those kind of thoughts creep in, when that kind of behavior creeps into you, you are opening yourself up to be a target of manipulation. I think that's the point that we're trying to make, that if in those early stages of childhood and youth and adulthood, at any time, if you don't do something about those, it's for your own good kind of comments, you could be opening yourself up to a manipulator. Not
And
necessarily that person, but manipulation.
taking the time to forget everything you know, forget who you are, forget all of that. Get out a blank piece of paper and you decide what's for your own good. What is for your own good? Literally, you're the CEO of your life. You're in charge. You're in charge of your thoughts, your words, and your actions. That's the only thing in your control. Nothing else is in your control. So you could actually just design it like a strategic plan. What is for my own good? I think, Dennis, it goes back to that worksheet that we have, which, by the way, we have a workshop coming up. Please go to our website,
Mm.
outwitinrealtime.com, because we have a worksheet, a virtual workshop starting next week, and we have other dates throughout the year. But
We don't know when people are going to hear this podcast, but
right.
we're
So
running
just
them
go
all the time, all the time. So check us out. Go ahead, Robin.
so we created a worksheet. What are you tolerating? So
Mhm.
if I were to, a very difficult worksheet to do. So if I said to
Mm.
you, are you willing to tolerate somebody lying to you? So these questions have to be answered yes or no. There's
Not
no,
sometimes. Not sometimes.
not sometimes.
Mhm.
So it's, most people will say, well, no.
Yeah.
Well, do you behave as if the answer is no to that
Mhm.
question? Or
Mhm.
have you tolerated people lying to you
Mhm.
with no consequences? Because the second part of that is, if you say no, I won't tolerate people lying to me. Okay, the first time that you catch someone lying to you, what
Mhm.
will those
What
consequences
do you
be?
do?
Now,
Right.
again, this is not taking it out of anything that's happened in the past or any, it's building your own policy for these important things. Will you
Mhm.
tolerate somebody lying to you? Will you tolerate somebody diminishing you,
Mhm.
verbally or non-verbally? Yes
Mhm.
or no?
Mhm.
And
Some of
then what are the consequences if they do it?
the
What's
things
the
on
promise to yourself?
those exercise sheets that we have for you folks are really very helpful. They take some time. We're just mentioning them here, but
Yeah,
take a look at them. They take time. You need to think them through and answer them for yourself.
they're
And
paradigm shifting with your
something
mindset.
I want to go back before we finish today, Robin. I want to go back to something I mentioned a little bit earlier, just in passing. I said that some of the is it for your own good gets decided by you, even though the other person said if it is or it isn't good, you decide, you have that decision. And I said something about there are criteria already in your subconscious mind. Now, your subconscious mind, I'm not going to go into all the mind, explaining what the mind is all about, but your subconscious mind contains everything you've ever learned. And if you were taught as a child, or you were taught along the job progress or somewhere in your career that certain things are not true or shouldn't be done, that's in your subconscious. So now you get to be an adult and someone says something to you about it and it doesn't quite feel right. Look into your own subconscious and say, why don't I feel comfortable with that? What is that? Now, that
Mhm.
takes us to something we've talked about in another episode.
Mhm.
So let's get to this. How do you fix all of this with all this stuff that we're talking
The
about?
courage to face it, first of all.
How do you do it? All right. There are three things that we want you to be able to do to help yourself both understand, is it good for me or not? And to know, how do I accept this? Do I trust this person and the source it's coming from? It could be teaching in a school. It could be a religion. It could be your boss. When they tell you, teach you, advise you, there's a good one, advise you. How do you know? How should you know to accept it or not? Talked about trust. What else can you do? There are three things. First of all, we want you to be curious about it. You told me that? Secondly, have the courage to act on the curiosity. Have the courage to do the third thing, which is question it. What do you mean by that? How does that help me? I don't understand. Question it. Curiosity, courage, and questioning. Those three things will help you to approach this idea of it's for your own good. Well, is it really? I don't know. Have the courage to ask about, how do you see this being for my own good? But did I do
So,
something?
the little kids say, "Why, why, why?" I have a 3.5-year-old
Oh, yeah,
granddaughter.
yeah,
Why?
yeah.
Well, the polite adult way of saying why is, you must have a good reason for feeling that way, or you must have a very good reason for saying that or sharing that. Would you mind sharing it with me?
Your 4-year-old is gonna say that.
No, I'm saying
But as an adult,
it's the adult polite
yeah,
way of
yeah,
saying why. Like, why are you
yeah,
telling me this? Why do I have to line up over here?
yeah,
Why do we have this rule? Why do we
yeah,
have
yeah,
this guideline?
yeah, yeah,
That's what you really are screaming in your head. Like, why?
yeah,
Why? Well, why sounds very confrontational, especially my
yeah.
delivery style just now. But oh, that's really interesting. So we always have to wear red on Wednesdays to work, solid red.
I'm curious about that.
Okay.
Why
There
is
must be a
that?
good reason.
I'm
Would you mind
curious. That's where
sharing it with me?
curiosity comes in. That's your curiosity.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would
It,
stay away from the word why if you can, unless, you
but
want to be a
it's
little bit
not.
edgy.
It's, look, it's not impolite to be curious. This is one of the reasons people don't do what we're
Exactly.
doing.
Exactly, Dennis.
I don't want to be
But
rude.
people will make you
No,
feel that way.
and that's what a manipulator will take advantage of. If they
Oh,
think
and
that you are not curious, that you will not have the courage to ask a question, they got you.
if you experience backlash when you ask a neutral, curious question and it
Oh boy,
escalates,
there you go.
there you
Now you know.
go. You're exposing it for what it
That's
is
right.
right there.
That's
And
right. You do.
remember that. Remember that. If you get backlash,
Mhm.
escalation,
Mhm.
pushback,
Yep. Yep.
think
You
of it
just
like
touch.
your Geiger counter going off.
Yep. You touched the
You
nerve
nailed it.
there, folks.
You
You
nailed it.
touched it. Now, when person's not really a manipulator, they'll have a good reason to tell you that.
Yeah,
They'll
they don't
explain
care.
it.
They'll give you
They'll
everything you
it'll
want.
be it so because they really
No
mean it
biggie.
in your own good. But you
That's
decide
right.
that by being curious about it, have the courage to ask a question about it. Those will help you discern whether you're being manipulated, whether you can really trust this person or not. And then you can take the action that you believe is in your own good. That's up to you. So when other people tell you it's for your own good, get curious about that.
Don't
Have
be
the courage
afraid of
to ask the question.
escalation. It
No,
shows that you nailed it.
yeah,
Start
yeah.
seeing
Exactly right.
backlash as success instead
Just
of
to,
being fearful.
you imagine, Robin, now as adults, you think back of all the times that somebody told you to do it this way, it's for your own good, or if you did it in a religion and they told you of whatever that you learn, think about all the times that you've heard that and you've just accepted it as an adult, as a
Well,
child, now as an adult.
you're talking to
Now,
me. I'm the most defiant person I've ever met. So, but I'll imagine I was somebody else. I rarely accept anything at face value. So
if I had been your parent, I could imagine the whys I would
it
have gotten
wasn't.
from. Oh my goodness! So you can imagine, folks, those of you who have kids, why, how crazy that makes you. That's what you want to do to a manipulator, you know. And we've said before, you make a manipulator crazy about doing all these things. Guess what? They'll leave you alone. They don't want to work hard. They want to just tell you and say, "Well, it's for your own good," and have you accept it. But if you're curious, you have the courage to ask a question, believe it or not, over time, and maybe a short time, they will back off from you. They will find another target who is easier to manipulate. That's our
And you
message
have
to you today.
succeeded. Yep.
Yes, and that's
And that's our
exactly what we
time.
want to say today. So we're up to time. So be curious, have the courage to ask a question. Don't just allow somebody to say to you, it's for your own good. Don't even say it to yourself until you have done this. It's your own good. We're telling you this. Okay. Well, let's end with
And
that.
go to Outwit in real time and check out the workshop, especially the next one coming up.
Yeah, and when you're in a workshop with us, we really get into this with you. They're fun and they're really educational. So join us. And until we see you again next time, waving there, and if you can't see it, she, the voice you're hearing, that's my colleague Robin Golinski, and I am Dr. Dennis Becker. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.